Hello everybody, this is Bronislava. I have another video here waiting for you. We are going to be making another hat, and this hat, it's a one skein project. I'm not really sure if some of you watched my video when I was coloring a yarn, which is this one, and I colored it with roses. If you want to go and color yarn with roses just like I did, I am going to go and post a link to this video so you can look how, what I did, how I did. Excuse me. But today we are going to be knitting a hat, baby hat, and we're going to actually be knitting this hat on straight needles. I did have a request about straight needles hat, and this is going to be a perfect project. Before we start this hat, I want to talk about my gauge, which is to 1 inch. I have 5.5 stitches and 7 rows. Okay, and when I calculated how many stitches I need for my item, I realized that I need 76 stitches, but on top of it we do need a selvage stitch, so we will need an extra stitch here, an extra stitch here. So 76 plus 1 plus 1, which is plus 2, right, is 78. I will be starting my project on 78 stitches. Now, when I will be doing my decreases, I will be decreasing 2 stitches in each point. So times 4, so I will be in each row, I will be decreasing really 8 stitches. So if you want to make your hat, let's say 1.5 inches wider, you will need to add 8 stitches. If you want to make it 1.5 inches smaller, I'm talking about circumference, of course, you would go and use 8 stitches less. Okay, so for example, if I'm working with 78 stitches, then you want your hat to be 1.5 inches in circumference lower, then you would go and start with 70 stitches. This hat is really directed toward beginners. Someone who already knows how to do knit stitch and also decreasing, and I will go over that decrease really slow. All right, so let's go and start our project. My tail is about 4.5 feet for my nearly 80 stitches, for 78 stitches, okay? And of course we always put tail over our thumb, and we will go and cast on 78 stitches. All right, so I'm finished with casting on my stitches, 78 stitches, and we can start knitting. However, I forgot to say that you also need to know how to do the purl stitch. So we will be using first 6 rows, we will do knit and purl ribbing, okay? And then we will just use knitting stitches until we go and start doing decreases. So this is how we will always start. You always will start with first stitch through the back loop, okay? Your first knit stitch through the back loop, and since this is knit and purl, our next stitch is going to be a purl stitch, okay? And then a knit stitch in a regular way, and a purl stitch, and a knit stitch, and purl stitch. Okay, let me show it to you in English style. So in English style, you do knit stitch, bring yarn forward, and you do purl stitch and bring yarn back, knit stitch, bring yarn forward, purl stitch. Okay, so that's how you will do it if you're English knitter. And I will continue all the way to my end, and I will show you what I will do with my last stitch. We're never gonna knit our last stitch. We will always slip it. And these are my last stitches. Knit and purl, knit. And now my last stitch, I will slip. And this is how I slip my last stitch. I bring my yarn forward, okay, and I slip my stitch from one needle onto another, okay. We're going to have the different edge. We're going to have an edge that looks kind of like a crochet edge, okay. Now again, I will do exactly the same thing like I did in the first row. I will knit my first stitch through the back loop. That's why we need this stitch in the back, I mean the yarn in the back, okay? And I will purl my next. And knit and purl. And I will show you one more time slipping my last stitch when I finish this row. And this is my second row. And I'm at the end of my second row, and I want to show you how I will be slipping my last stitch the English way, okay? So we knit, we purl, we knit, and now we would just go like we want to purl, so we bring the yarn forward, and again we just slip that stitch from one needle onto another, okay? So at this point I'm finished with 2 rows, all right, and I will want to knit at least 4 more rows. So I have like 6 rows, okay? So you know this ribbing would basically hold really nicely on baby's head. Okay, so I am finished with my ribbing, and I will start knitting just knit stitches. So in other words, it's going to be on both sides. It's going to be a garter stitch, okay? So again, in the first stitch, I will go and knit through the back loop, and then the last stitch, I will slip with the yarn over here, okay, in the front. Now I have to figure out how many rows of garter stitch I need before I start decreasing. And for my decrease, I need 16 rows per my calculation, okay? And over here I have 1 inch. So altogether I need 7 inches. I need hat to be tall 7 inches, okay? So what I will do is I will go and knit few rows because in garter stitch the height is going to be different than from ribbing, okay? Over here I have ribbing, which is sort of like a stockinette stitch if you go and measure from here to here, okay? but garter stitch is going to be different. It's going to be a little bit more compressed. Okay, so let me go and knit. So we will start, like I said, through the back loop. Okay, and I will knit my knit stitches, several rows, and then I will measure how many rows fit into approximately an inch. I'm finishing my knit stitch row, and again I will move this forward, and I mean the yarn, right? And now I will move my stitch from one needle to another. Okay, and you see this is formation of our garter stitch now. And in our next row we are going to do again a knit row, right, for the garter stitch. So we start with the back loop over here, okay, and now just knit stitches all the way to the end, and then you slip last stitch with the yarn in front. And you can see that I'm starting to have my garter stitch over here as well. Okay, so what I will do now is I will knit several rows. Okay, and we will take it from there. We will find out how many rows we will need for the hat before we will start decreasing. Okay, I already knitted 32 rows. Okay, in other words, I have 16 of these lines in here, 16 lines of garter stitch, which means that each line represents 2 rows. Now I know that I need 16 rows, which is 8 of these lines I need for my decrease, and that comes to 1.5 inches. Okay, now I have already over here 1 inch. Now I need 7 inches for my hat, 1.5 inches for the top over here, and 1 inch here that I have at the bottom is 2.5 inches. So 7 inches minus 2.5 is going to bring me the middle part to about 4.5 inches. Okay, so I need 4.5 inches of just this straight plain, no decreases, middle part. Okay, and at the moment, so I need 4.5, so I need 1 more inch, 1 more inch, and 1 more inch is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 5 lines, which means 10 more rows. So I'm going to go and knit 10 more rows, and then I will show you how I will be decreasing. I made my 10 rows. Okay, so now this should be about 4.5 inches, and let me see if it is 4.5 inches. Okay, it's about 4.25. It's about 4.25. I think that's okay. But I just wanted to go and point one thing out. Okay, if you go and look here at the edge, you see these little bumps in here, right? So this bump is really the cast on stitch. If you go and look over here, there are no bumps. It's more like a twist in here. Okay, so you have to go and make decision if you want to have this as your right side, or if you want to have this as a right side, because our decrease is going to be done in such way that you are going to see a crochet-like stitch line, okay? Since I have only 4 1/4 over here, I will go and make one more row. So this is going to be my right side instead of wrong side. I'm finished with my extra row, and my wrong side is now considered to be right side, because this is where I will be doing my decreases, and this right side is going to be my wrong side. Okay, we are going to be doing decreases where we're going to go and have a stitch, crochet-like stitch, sitting on top of our garter stitch. Okay, so let's go and do it. So first I will go and knit 10 stitches. So first one goes through the back loop, right? And this is my 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we will do a decrease. This decrease is going to be 2-stitch decrease with the stitch, the middle stitch, sitting on top of the 2 side stitches. Okay, and this is how we do it. We will slip 2 stitches at the same time knitwise. So we need to go past the second stitch, insert the needle there, okay, slip it off, knit this stitch, and now we will take 2 stitches, both of them that we slipped, and we will place them, pull them over the knitted stitch. Okay, and we have a stitch that is sitting right here in the middle, and those 2 side stitches are underneath. They're underneath in here. Okay, now we will knit 16 stitches and then repeat. 16 plus those 3 stitches is 19. So we need to first knit 16 stitches and then do the repeat, decrease, repeated decrease. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. We're going to do the same decrease again. Slip 2 stitches knitwise, slip them off the needle, knit the 3rd stitch, and now place those 2 slipped stitches over that knitted stitch. Okay, and we decrease by 2 stitches. And let's do the same thing again. 16 stitches, knit 16 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Let me show you this decrease in English style. Okay, so again, you will slip 2 stitches knitwise, knit this stitch, place those 2 stitches that you slipped over the knitted one, and make a decrease. And you can start knitting another 16 stitches. And this is going to be our last decrease in this row, our 4th decrease. So we're gonna slip, knit twice, knit the stitch, and then we will place those stitches over knitted stitch and decrease. Okay, and we will finish our row knitting and slipping, knitting the rest of these stitches. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we will slip the last stitch. Okay. Now what we will do, in the next row, I will knit all the way to that stitch where we decreased. Okay, so I need to knit 8 stitches. Okay, so I need to knit these 8 stitches, and then we will purl that decreased stitch. Okay, because we want to maintain the stitch sitting on the front here, maintain that it sits on top of the garter stitch pattern. Okay, so we will knit, so first one through the back loop, now 7 knitted stitches in a regular manner. All right, this is our stitch that needs to be purled, so we will purl it. And we will knit stitches again all the way to that decreased stitch, and I think that should be 14 stitches. 14 stitches between decreased stitches. You can go and notice that this stitch is kind of chubby, okay, because there is more, it's that decreased stitch, and it's like 2 extra stitches in there. Okay, so we can purl. You cannot really see much at the moment, but once you do it a few times, you're going to go and see the real outcome. Okay, let me show it to you again in English style. So we will knit all the way to that one stitch that has been decreased. Actually, it was 2 stitches that were decreased into 1 stitch. Okay, here we are. You can see that it's, you know, there is more yarn in there, so we will purl that stitch. And I will continue knitting my 14 stitches and then purling the next. Now I just want to let you know that there will be pattern on my blog, okay? And here we are at our stitch, special stitch that we purl. And now we knit the rest. And I knitted 9 and 10th stitch I slipped. Okay, now I will repeat this decrease again, except then when you look at it, you will have to go and decrease these 3 stitches. So this one is gonna be in the middle, okay, and these are gonna go underneath that middle one. So it's going to be decreased like this into 1 stitch. So now instead of knitting 10 stitches and then doing the decrease, I will knit 9 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, and then I will decrease these 2 stitches. Then I will have to knit, this one is going to be our decrease, so all these stitches in between, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plus 4. So we will have to go and knit 14 stitches here, okay? So basically before we did not actually knit 14 stitches on the other side, we were knitting 16 stitches, okay, in between those decreases. So I was wrong. So let me go and do this, and I will speed knit over here. So here we are. We have that middle right here. It's always this, it has to be second stitch, so we will slip those 2 stitches, knit the 3rd one, and push these over the knitted. And let's go and knit to the next decrease. Okay, now I have to stop right here because I have 1 purl stitch here, 1 knit stitch here, and 1 purl stitch in here, okay? So we need to have the knit stitch in the middle. So we will go and slip 2 stitches knitwise, knit next stitch, slip those 2 or pull those 2 stitches over the knitted one, and we continue again. All right, so continue like this all the way to the end of the row, and then when you're finished with this row, then you are going to go and do the next row exactly like we did the 2nd row after the decreases. Okay, again, we are going to go and start with knitting through the back loop, knit all the way to that decreased stitch. Here it is, it's this one, so 1 more stitch I need to knit, and then I will purl that stitch, and then start knitting again until the next decreased stitch. So this is my second time that I have done this, and I need to do this 6 more times. Here is my stitch. I almost knitted it, so be careful. We need to purl it. Again, let's purl that stitch. Okay, and then knit. Okay, so here you can go and see my decreases. So I will continue, let me see, 6 more times, okay? When I have 6 more of these lines, okay, which is 12 rows, I will show you how it looks and how we will finish the hat. But remember, on this side, when you are decreasing, you're decreasing always those stitches next to that knitted stitch, okay? And you're making 3 stitches into 1. Good morning and hello to all my fantastic knitters. As you see, last night I almost finished actually, my decreases. I still have 1 more decrease and then a knitting on the way back before we close the top, okay? And as you see over here, I am hitting my 7-inch height of the hat. So that's fabulous. Okay, so I have crochet like chains over here, 14 of them. Okay, I have 14 of them and I need 16. And so we will go and decrease all these stitches by another 8 stitches, and then we will pull my yarn through all of these stitches. All right, so let's go and do it. We knit through the back loop. We examine how far we need to knit. So I need to knit 2 stitches over here, 1 and 2. Now I need to decrease, slip, knit, and pass those 2 stitches over, pull them over that stitch, knitted stitch, knit again. Let me see how many, 2 stitches, 1 and 2, do another decrease. You see in between, oops, no, not knitting, just slipping. You see in between those decreases, I have only 2 stitches now left. Okay. So 1, 2, slip. Make sure you don't knit them together. It might want to make you do that. Oops. Okay, almost there. Okay, last one, last decrease, and because we don't have any stitches over here, we just slip this stitch. Okay, all right, and now our last row, knit through the back loop. We need to purl this stitch, knit 2 stitches, 1, 2, purl. Let me show you. Okay, you see, because that's that stitch again. So we have, like I said, we have 2 stitches between. Between our purl stitches. Knit, knit, purl, and knit, knit, and slip. And now what we need to do is pull this yarn through all these stitches. You could do it 2 ways. You could do it with yarn needle or with hook. I usually do it with hook because if you have a yarn needle, you have only 1 strand inside there, but with the hook I always have 2 strands. I leave it like this, okay? With the yarn needle, you would just go and clip off a long tail, thread it into a needle, and then you just would go and put the needle inside here and just pull it through, right? But I will do it with my hook. Now I use hook that has no handle because I transfer with the back of my hook, not where my hook is, okay? But with my back of the hook, I transfer my stitches just like I would be slipping stitches. So I just transfer them all slowly and make sure that you don't drop your stitches. I transfer them to my hook. Now I will go and pull this yarn through all these stitches, okay, using the hook. Now you have to make sure, if you're doing it like that, you can do it 1 by 1. So I make a little loop over here, okay, and then I start pulling with the hook down. You need to go and find a technique how to hold that yarn so it's kind of tight, okay, and I just start pulling with these fingers down, so I make a hole underneath the hook, okay? And if you do that, you can go and pull much better the yarn through those stitches. And the hook I push up, okay? So I kind of, you see how it's stretching, okay? So I create that space right there by doing so, and I start slowly pulling through those stitches. Now you can stop anytime you want when you pass the stitch. Look at that, okay? If it doesn't go, you can go and redo put your fingers right underneath the stitch and go again. You see, you can, when you stop, put the hook up so you don't lose the stitch if it's down, okay? And the hook is holding the yarn as well. So you just go and pull it through those stitches and reposition your fingers to next 2-3 stitches, okay? Okay, now you see I have 2 strands in there, okay? I have 2 strands. I pull on this one to make it tight, and then I make it really tight, and I make a knot, make 1 more knot, okay? Now we're gonna go and leave we need a long tail because we will be sewing this edge. This length is almost double the size of the height, so it's about, I would say, 14-15 inches, okay? Just you want to make sure that you have enough. Now we will be sewing on the right side over here, okay? Now I did one thing wrong, and that is that if I would leave this long enough. I could have gone from the bottom, I could sew it from the bottom to the top and then weave in all my ends here. But unfortunately, I didn't do that. So you can take any needle that you have at home. I like to use big, big yarn needles. They're also called tapestry, right? So we will be working from top to bottom, like I said, okay? And actually away from our body, okay? And what I will do is first, let's go and look at these stitches. So these stitches have to line up. So this is the last stitch and this is the last stitch and then the next to it, okay? So they do need to line up. First, what I will do is I will take my needle and I will go from the inside out through that little circle. We need to go with needle from one chain-like stitch under into the other one, okay? So this is how we're gonna go and do it. And then we will do the same thing from chain-like stitch into it and come out from the other one, okay? So let's do it. I'll go in here, out here. Now I will go into the same first and come out second. Okay, so these two, the first ones are matching and the second stitches are matching. I'm not gonna tighten it up yet so you can see better. Now I will go into the second one, the last one that I came out of, and I will go in the second, out the third. On the other side, in the second, out the third. In the third, out the fourth. In the third, okay, out the fourth. I just want to show you how it looks. In a third, out the fourth, okay? So just right next to those. Okay, so now let me go and tighten it up. But we just have to remember where we came out in here, because when you tighten it up, it may be hard to see. Okay, you really cannot see where the edge is. So let's continue. Let me see, where is our third one? Third one is here. I tightened it up a little bit too much. Here is my third one. You can go and pull out the last one a little bit, okay? So third or fourth and fifth, I think. 4 and 5th, 4 and 5th. Okay, and I will continue like this, try to hold it in such way that it's easy for you to work with it. Okay, so 5th and 6th, 5th and 6th, 6 and 7, 6 and 7. Occasionally go and tighten up your stitches. You can also go back and tighten them back like that later on just as well, just to make sure that you know where your yarn came out of, okay? Okay, I will continue all the way to the end over here, and I will see you when we're finishing up our edge over here, okay? Okay, if you did it properly, you should have your stitches over here lined up, okay? And if you did not, if you have like one extra, then you just have to go and skip and line them up, and that's about it. Or you can go and take it all apart and start from beginning, okay? But I think that if you go and mess up and you just go and move that one, let me go and show you how you would do that. So I came out of here, right? And I came out of here. So instead of going in here, you would go into the next two like this, and it would go, and if this one, you would have more of these chain-like stitches if it would be longer, right? So if you go a little bit below, instead of here and here, you would go here and here, it would go and make it move up a little bit, okay? So that's just one trick, but try to go and line them up all evenly, okay? So I am here at my end. Let me see where I came out in here. Okay, this is the one. So here is my stitch, and here is my stitch. Here is my stitch, and here is my stitch. Okay, these two stitches, these two stitches, these two stitches. And these two last stitches. Now I will go and try to flush it over here. I'll go in here. Okay. Now since we have two of these in here, I will just tie them together. And I will use my hook, and I will just weave them into these stitches on the inside. This is how I will take care of our tails. I'm going to go high enough because I do not really want it to be unraveled, okay? So this is how the seam looks when you sew it, when you're knitting on straight needles, okay? I mean, it's not bad, but it's not knitting, you know, in the round. And then over here, this is how it looks when you work with those edges, okay? So this is our hat knitted on straight needles. Now this is my doll that I use for 0 to 3 months old babies when I'm knitting outfits. And let me go and put it on the doll's head. And you see, so this hat is supposed to be for a 6 to 9 months old baby, perhaps even to a year old. You see how much it has, it stretches, so it is going to be fitting. All right, so we would go and wear the seam in the back, and this is how the baby would look like. So thank you very much for watching my video today. If you hopefully you are going to go and knit along. And if you haven't subscribed to my videos yet, to my channel, please subscribe. Follow me on my social media. Don't forget to comment. I absolutely love when people comment. Give other people's ideas as well. If you go and see something that somebody's asking, some kind of questions, your experiences. I absolutely love when people interact with each other and we learn from each other. And that's about it. And you will see me another day.